Hello, I'm Kurt Lidke, Executive Director of Klamath Film, and you just watched One Dead Dog, one of 6 feature films selected for the 2020 Klamath Independent Film Festival. Joining us now to discuss this freaky, fantastic film is the director, Rollyn Stafford, as well as cast members Daniel Timothy Treacy and Brian Sutherland. Thank you so much for joining us.
You bet.
Glad to be here.
I'm happy as well.
First of all, may I say that I really hope that no one in the cast took the method actor approach in preparing for this film. Nobody literally got stabby, right?
Treacy, I think this is a question for you.
You know, it wasn't so much stabby as the character I played is very different than myself, and so there's a lot of stillness and a lot of weirdness, and so I did actually have to drop in a lot more, but I felt like doing that all the time on set would be a little bit whack, so I didn't. I definitely fell into the character quite a bit, and it was fun. It was one of the funnest characters I've ever done. It was super fun. It's very still, very strange. A lot of things going on up here, but not a lot going on right here. It was it's cool. I enjoyed it. It was like taking a nap while awake.
I had already done about 4 serial killer films, so it was just kind of in my blood.
And we're pretty sure that Rollyn is a serial killer, so
Yeah, that helped a lot.
A lot of the film is very biographical. Yeah.
So I know acting comes with its own challenges and hardships and certain skill sets, but sometimes a job can be really fun too, or at least it looks like it's fun. And getting to not only create an entertaining film, but doing so playing with blood and guts and prop knives and lunacy. Did all of you have as much fun making One Dead Dog as you make it look like you were having fun doing it? Because this film looks like it was an absolute blast to make.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say it was probably my favorite movie I've ever been on. And don't get a big head, Rollyn, but we laughed harder than I've ever laughed in my life. We shot for about 2 to 3 weeks, and every day was smooth and fun, and we got to kind of add our own jokes and write our own jokes. And like you said, when you're having comedy mixed with that horror, it's kind of my favorite thing, because there's just so many options of how big you want to go with it.
So many options too, because there's like a little bit of drama, a little bit of horror, a little bit of comedy. It was great. It was easily the funnest one I've ever done, for sure. It involved hot tubs, and that's great. Nothing wrong with that.
We were in that hot tub for so long.
So long.
Every day it was in our contract to have 3 hours of hot tubbing.
I love that hot tub. What made this film was especially fun for me to do, but I think what made it fantastic is there was about 13, 14 crew members in cast, all included, and we worked together very closely for 2 weeks, living together in this Airbnb and the cabin you see in the set. And at the end of these 2 weeks, we didn't kill each other. We were in love with each other. We all respect each other very much, and there weren't grudges or anything like that. And by the time it ended, we all wanted to make something else together. So yeah, it was an incredibly fun shoot to make. And if I could do it again with a bigger budget, I totally would.
That's a huge point too, because it was so sleek, man. Everything was just such a well-oiled machine. It's like no problems with anyone. Which I think that's part of the reason it was so fun. Honestly,
yeah.
It's like we just kept it professional, but still had fun. Like we got to play in our characters and everything else, because like Rollyn's that kind of director. It was great. Everyone did their job and did it very well. It was killer.
We actually got done a day early, which is unheard of for filming.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. We did. Wow.
So
right.
When you watch that shower scene, we shot that shower scene where we're all covered in blood and washing ourselves off, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. That was improvised because we had an extra day just to fool around and destroy Rollyn's house with blood.
Yeah. My parents loved that, by the way. Yeah.
Sarcasm.
It's not just getting to put your own spin on the classic slasher genre too, but a lot of people watching it may not have noticed that the film is also a loving tribute, homage, whatever you want to say, to one of the founders of that film genre. So tell us about how Mark Patton of Nightmare on Elm Street fame got involved.
Oh man, so great to have him on board. when Brian, Tracy, and Garrett Benak, the other producer, got together to make this film, we knew we wanted some actor that was connected to the horror industry in some way. We thought that'd be an important person to have for marketing the movie. And originally, the part of Uncle Ted was for a woman. And I had originally talked to Adrienne King from Friday the 13th, and we thought she was going to be in it. But she graciously dropped out, so she couldn't do it. And I was sitting on my couch one day trying to think of somebody and looked at my girlfriend, and she said, wouldn't it be great if we got someone like Mark Patton? How funny would that be? And I was like, huh. And I swear to God, I looked at IMDb, and Mark does not have an agent on IMDb. So I said, okay. I found him on Instagram. I messaged him, and I swear not more than 5 minutes had passed when he wrote me back and said, sure, send me the script. Let's see what we got. And that's how it came about. And we clicked very quickly after that. And I could listen to him tell stories forever about Hollywood in the 1980s. He would, name drop, like, well, my best friend Cher would do this, or, I've been to those post-Oscar Elton John parties, got kind of fun. So it was an absolute joy having him on board. And I think it's also important to note that we got him at a very special time in his life. Currently, he is promoting his documentary, Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, which if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful movie for horror fans, the LGBTQ community, and just documentary fans in general. It's a wonderful eye-opener. And he was about to travel around the world to promote that documentary. We just got him for that weekend, right in time.
Fantastic. So where was One Dead Dog filmed, and how long did it take? You said like 2 to 3 weeks?
We shot it, including travel days, it was 18 days. And most of it was shot up in Black Butte Ranch, which is near Bend, Oregon. And that was the whole setting where the house is and everything. But everything else was shot around Portland. The inside of the bar was a bar in downtown Portland called The Tube. And the other housing locations were shot around Portland too. But I'd say 85% in Black Butte Ranch.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What I really love about this film is that even though it's a crazy slasher flick that could have fit in really well in the 80s when that genre was king, at its heart, it's really a character piece about family. And I love the dichotomy of the characters because they're played very subtly. I mean, they're serial killers, so how do you do a subtle serial killer? But to me, it's almost like Stephen Wright's stand-up comedy. Like the more dry the character is, the funnier it is. Was that intentional, at least with the brothers, to really downplay their personalities, at least at the beginning, as almost like borderline uninteresting people that you would just ignore, yet they have this utterly fascinating aspect to them that they're all serial killers.
That's what I loved about it is and I think Rollyn's really good at writing kind of that dry comedy. But while it was funny, it really wasn't about serial killers. It was about family and these two brothers' relationships. So there was so much, just between Daniel and I, the dryness of how it is with your brother. I think that comedy really came through, and it was really fun to portray.
Yeah, and yes, absolutely. That's exactly the way it was for me. Like, I don't know, if you try to tell a joke and you're like, it's a joke, it's not that funny. But if you just let it just hit and slide into first base, that's the ticket. And I think a lot of it, like, especially between me and Brian, it was just so much fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was hard not to laugh.
And that's how siblings are, is that sibling rivalry is we're constantly trying to one-up each other and insult each other while we still love each other. But that was the relationship. And I think a lot of people can relate to that with their siblings.
And especially Daniel, your character, you played so deadpan, and that made it even funnier. Like, was it hard to keep a straight face sometimes with his like flat and boring as you tried?
I was so into it. It really sometimes Brian would get me, and sometimes Nathan would get me. But honestly, I was just into it. I was just I was out, and I enjoyed that. There's been a couple characters I've played like that, where there's just like a peacefulness to it, honestly. It's just like, I'm doing this, but it's really hard to be that still It really, really is. So the focus was definitely on the character. And yeah, a couple times they made me laugh, but I was basically just, I was over here half the time. You know,
Yeah.
there was thoughts running through my character's head that were, you know, in there, but still, I was like, I wasn't connected to people at all. I was, you know, so like whatever was happening in front of me, I was, nah, it's not really happening now, is it? I was,
But when you're trying to be so serious, though, if one person gets the giggles, that's even more infectious than COVID, though, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Way to go.
Bring it.
Man.
We were closer than 6 feet too, so.
I think we were also trying to crack each other up. Like we all are, you know, we've all worked with each other. We're all professional, so it's kind of fun. It's like, you know, an advanced tennis match. I've seen how much you can push the other person into breaking, but we all held it on. It was a really fun shoot.
To sort of add on to what Brian just said there, I'm a really big believer in, you know, great actors get great performances out of other great actors. So I had these three amazing people on my cast, and just watch them play off each other is what, you know, sold their performances and sold the story.
Who were they?
No one you know.
He fixed it in post, right?
Yeah, always.
I think it's important to note, though, that when I wrote One Dead Dog, I didn't write it with serial killers. That came later. The whole story was about two brothers finding a squatter in their house, and that was it. The serial killer element I just added on later. I thought that's kind of funny. That's interesting. So I knew from the get-go that I would need strong actors and characters for the part, regardless of being serial killers.
So, Rollyn, we need to hear the story behind how the story came together then. You said it really wasn't about story killers. So how did that come into the story element? What motivated you in writing it?
I mean, I always knew I wanted to shoot something at that log cabin. And that was my parents' house. I grew up there. Every summer I would go up there for 3 months, and I would live my summers up there bike riding or, you know, tennis or whatever. And
the photos in the beginning are actually of Rollyn.
Yeah, those are me and my brother. If you look closely. And then I grow into Treacy.
You poor thing.
I wish. No, but about a year and a half ago, my parents told me, listen, we're going to sell the cabin. I'm like, oh no, well, I have to make a movie there right now. And so that's what I did. Sorry, I got off track on the question there. You are asking how the serial killer element came into being there. I think at the time I was being heavily influenced by certain cabin in the wood-esque kind of movies. Mark and Jay Duplas's Baghead certainly was a big influence on me. I loved it very much. So I guess I thought it would just be funny to take this normal story I had wrote and just add a dry serial killer element to it, and just have the serial killers act like, you know, normal people. They add this normalcy to it, because to me, the film really isn't about serial killers. It's about nostalgia. It's about these two brothers, you know, remembering all the good times they had growing up at that cabin.
So last year, I watched a film that Daniel and Rollyn collaborated on, Road to Bob, and had all of the cast work together on previous projects. I mean, were you all friends prior to this, or was there a casting process behind it?
Well, Treacy and I had worked together on 3 short films before that. So Treacy and I were already good friends.
Lucy
certainly. Yeah, I had worked. This was my first feature film, and I had worked with most of the cast and crew in some form of another, usually on short films.
We're certainly casting now. We did a casting call.
We did.
Yeah.
In fact, Brian also auditioned for Road to Bob, and was there at the very end too. So we were happy to get him. You booked it. You booked it. We had you for 1 day, and then you had to fly off to like New Zealand or something to teach acting. Dubai. Yeah.
Almost the same.
So yeah, that was I'd say we knew each other for the most part. Most of the cast and crew did know each other.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. The horror genre of film, fiercely loyal as far as fandom goes, but it's always been somewhat segregated in the film industry. Even going back to the 1930s, Universal classics, far too many film snobs in the industry out there are just like, oh, they're very elitist view of those movies. But then came along things like Evil Dead that brought out the comedy in horror, and this film definitely bridges that gap. It's a hilarious horror, almost family film thrown into the mix there. So when you set out to make this film, was there an intentional tack to try to break out of that slasher stigma?
If I have one regret, honestly, about making One Dead Dog, it's that I didn't have enough blood in it. To be honest, I think we cheaped out. I think I gravitated more towards the family element, and I was like, you know what? I probably should have one or two more kills in there. Been a little more entertaining. But there's only so much blood we could afford. um, yeah. So no, I didn't consider myself breaking out any genre. I knew what I was doing, mixing comedy and gore together, and I knew that was always a winning combination for me as an audience member. I think that's wonderful to see those Sam Raimi films like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Those were certainly on my mind too when I wrote this. I mean, how can you not think about the ultimate cabin in the woods film without thinking about Evil Dead? Yeah.
So what got cut? I mean, not bodies, obviously, but what ended up on the cutting room floor? There's always things that never make the final film for a multitude of reasons. But any scenes perhaps that the cast loved and are feeling a little vengeful, maybe even dare I say a little stabby over that one little scene being cut from the final version of the film.
It was about 20 minutes, I'd say, cut from the final film, but they were not stabby, to use your words. They were more of quiet moments that I thought were very nice, but ultimately slowed the pace of the film down, especially in the second half. So that was decided to be cut. There's a wonderful moment where Treacy, in a great moment of acting, breaks down and cries. We took a whole afternoon to film, but ultimately we decided that it didn't quite work with the pacing of the movie.
Rollyn was really good with working with us because we both came on as producers. So when we watched the rough cut, really, I mean, we loved it. Was kind of like what we shot was what we saw, and that's what was really nice about watching it. But really, there was only just one-liners that we would want in that maybe were cut that you put back in for us that we thought were funny. But I was really impressed by just how much you kept in and how much we didn't have to cut, and also just working with you on how you took our opinions and put it back in, if for those little one-liners to inflate our egos.
You're welcome.
Well, yeah, it just goes along with like how smooth the project was in general.
Yeah,
I mean, everything was planned out so well. It's like they had the cut before. I mean, we were kind of editing while we went in a way. I mean, we had a really, really rough cut of the film while we were there.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to watch and see it come together in that aspect. It was rough, but it's what we got. We knew the film was going to be good right then and there. It was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I think it's good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm that guy.
Were there any notable bloopers or really funny, memorable moments from behind the scenes in the course of the production?
Oh man.
Or if you can pick only one, right?
The hot tub scene got like pretty ridiculous because we had to be in that hot tub for like 7 hours. And we were just withering in it, and just sitting in a hot tub for that long time, we just slowly started to get delirious. But then also when Daniel and I have to jump out and run, like we did that a couple times, and it really was just freezing cold, and we were stepping on rocks and slamming into each other. And I mean, that was, I mean, and then when we leave and we killed the two burglars by the car, I mean, I think it was like 20 degrees. We're so sitting there in freezing cold shorts. Not exactly bloopers, but just one of the most ridiculous nights of filming. We destroyed that hot tub.
Yeah. And we did, as far as bloopers, we didn't mess up once, so there was just none to. I remember running out. I remember running out to the field of the golf course, like after you, and then you just stopped in the dark, and I just tackled you on accident.
There is actually a moment, and it was something we did. I didn't know the cameras were rolling, but Michael Devin Creeman decided to record it, and Treacy played along. Where the moment where Treacy is by himself in that room and has that wonderful monologue about killing Ben Wilson and burying him out back. Before we started that scene, he looked right into the camera, and I don't know how he did this, but somehow dislocated his jaw, and his tongue was like, I don't know how the hell you were doing, but it was beautiful, Treacy. I should send you that.
It really was.
In slow motion.
In slow motion to Enya.
To Enya.
Yeah, to Enya.
Really the important part.
It was a great stress reliever, I think, for all of us. We needed to see that.
Actually took time to cut it.
Oh, the thing too is the first 3 days at Blackview, like I specifically was like deathly ill. I was so sick.
Oh my God.
Everyone got sick.
I was like pounding Dayquil, and then you'd be like, action, and I'd jump into the scene and just try to hold my breath to get the words out. And then you'd say cut, and I'd be like, oh God. That was when I knew I had COVID.
Dude. Brian, you really pulled yourself together. I'm so proud of you for doing it, man, because everyone got that cold or whatever it was. It went around and we all got it. But Brian had it worst on the day he had delivered so much dialogue, and he would just suck it up and then throw up later or whatever. It was really a good job.
Glorious moments.
It was truly amazing. How I'm in character, and then just go back to becoming a pile of mucus in the corner.
Oh yeah.
You were beautiful.
Thank you.
You were beautiful.
So I dare to ask this almost, but what do you hope people take away from this film?
I hope they come out of the theater laughing, honestly, and are entertained. And I hope they talk a lot about the performances from the actors, and that they want to see more from me as a director. They say, "Oh, I like people who come out of theaters. I'll pay more money for that guy to direct a new movie. That'd be good."
That would be good.
And to cast those people, and that wonderful cast and crew that we had from most of us from Portland, Oregon, but amazing makeup by Kenneth Calhoun, who's from LA, and Gracie Lacey, the one actor from Los Angeles too, who we brought up. Amazing performance by her. I hope they just come out thinking that it was all around an entertaining movie for an hour and a half, honestly, and that it wasn't a waste of their time. That they feel good about it afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that one of the many things that Ron's really, really good at is storytelling. So I hope honestly that people take away all the characters had an arc. Everyone had a thing going on, and that's something that Rollyn does and does very well. And everything connects and flows, and it's just great to watch. So it makes it easier if we're going to improv on film or do anything as an actor, to know where the story is going, to know how to help the film and move it along. It makes it so much easier when you have a film that is set up correctly. The story set up correctly. And Rollyn does that every time. It's incredible. I love it. But acting with Megan and Brian was awesome. There's two really, really good actors. Natural. It was great. Those are the things. Those are the takeaways I had, at least. I watched it once.
Any final thoughts about the film that you'd like people to know?
I just hope they enjoy the movie as much as we enjoyed making it. It was such a good script, and hopefully they get to see the fun that we had, and they get to feel that too. And like they said, leave with a smile on their face.
I hope that people like it so much that they want to see a solo movie with Mark's character. who is
bring on the prequels?
Who is Uncle Ted, and how did he get
one dead cat?
I hope they want to see that story.
So great.
I know. I talk to Mark all the time. I'll fly him back up from Mexico if he wants to make another movie. I know that'll be great.
I'll hear your stories again. I'll do that. I'll dig on it.
Okay.
I just want everyone to want more movies from us and just give me all your money. Give me every last cent, every single thing you've worked for in your entire life. Just give it to us. Give it to us.
Well,
right?
I think that's true. I think it's also important to note that tomorrow we actually have a Zoom table read for my next feature.
We do. So we'll need all your money.
We need your money.
Don't worry about the college. The college will take care of itself. Okay? You're good to hard-working kid.
Schools are closed.
Money.
Thank you very much, Rollyn and Daniel and Brian. This has been an absolute blast. And in addition to being available online all weekend through Eventive, people can catch One Dead Dog in person at the Ross Raglan Theater here in Klamath Falls on Saturday, September 19th at 1:30 p.m. for the 8th Annual Klamath Independent Film Festival. Guys, thank you so much. This has been tons of fun, and thank you so much for the fantastic film.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This has been fun.
See you later.